Ladies and gentlemen, this is Freon. I wanted to do another tutorial about coding and Visual Studio debugging. I know I've done the text one already. I didn't feel like that really covered everything as nicely as I'd want. So I'm going to try and talk about it. Good luck to that. Okay, so quick intro on Visual Studio first. So it all looks complicated. You got all these bits and bobs all over the place. You can ignore most of them. Okay, most of this stuff you don't need to use, and I don't know what half of it does, and I still write the tool. So here, you probably don't really need to know that either, except to find things. So this is the overarching project. It's just the whole thing, the entire ME3Explorer. These are little projects within them. So for example, there's the ME3Explorer, there's the ME2Explorer, ME1, and then if you cruise in here, you get TPF tools here and my little form, which allows you to edit things. You know, I could add another menu if I wanted to. The code itself, you can just right click and go view code, and here you go. Lots of complicated colors and ifs and brackets everywhere. Okay, so that's just a brief intro to Visual Studio being Visual Studio. As we go through this will cover a whole bunch more about what you can do with Visual Studio in relation to the code. So let's do a quick code intro then. This is C# for anyone who's wondering. So if you don't know code, this probably, like any code at all, this isn't going to make a huge amount of sense, but I'll see what I can do. So first top level thing we got up here is the namespace. So I like to think of all these things as boxes. So you get the namespace, which is a giant box that you put classes in. Now a class is a smaller box, I suppose, but it's a box that you can get stuff out of. Actually, it's just kind of the same as a namespace in that respect. Perhaps a box is a poor example, but we're going to stick with it. So you can have classes, which are boxes. Now classes can have global variables. So these are variables that all functions, these are functions, that's actually a constructor, we'll get to that, so all functions, all things within this class can talk about these. And there's only one of them. So for every instance of this class, there's only one integer called numValid. Yeah, okay. So this is a constructor. It happens when you make a new version of this. So when you say new, so let's do it. If you go new free on TPF tools, and then do that. That's obviously not a true statement, but anyway, that will call this. So this happens straight away when you call this. So this does all the setup and all that kind of stuff. You got if, else, things like that. Now we get to a function. So the function is a box that does stuff. So classes don't really do stuff, they're just boxes that contain more boxes, which are functions. And functions are a box of things which do things. So this particular function, initialize, it can only be seen within this Freon TPF tools class. So if you couldn't call this from anywhere else, that probably doesn't make a lot of sense, but you can't call this in Windows, for example. You can only call it within TPF tools. Void means this is a return type, so this function doesn't return anything. So when you call it, you just call initialize, and it's just that. It just does whatever's in it. And what's in it is I'm setting up a bunch of tasks. You don't need to worry about what tasks are. So let's find a more useful one that actually returns something. Okay, so this one returns a boolean, so a true or false, and it doesn't matter how it gets those true or false. This statement just says that it's going to spit out a true or a false when it finishes. So you would call it like this. So this function returns a task, and this is a task. It doesn't matter what a task is, it's just that this is a task and this will return a task. So this up here for this function would say task. So that's an inequality. I'm not going to go through every single operator here, but yeah, these are grouping brackets, so everything inside those brackets happens relating to this function, this statement. So this one though, so see this if has brackets and this one doesn't, this is the only statement that happens in relation to this if. So if this is true, this will happen. If it isn't true, it'll just keep going. But this one, if this is true, it'll do all of this, and if it isn't true, it'll totally ignore everything in there and go down here, as specified by those brackets. Okay, that's pretty much super quick intro to C#. Now, most people are going to want to know about, or the thing that I want everyone to know about this video, is the debugging phase of things. So most people don't know code. You don't know what if loops are, or you maybe do, but you just don't know what these if loops are, or you don't want to know what these if loops are. That's perfectly fine. But what if it breaks and you just come crying to the forums saying it doesn't work, help me? That's totally, I'm basically going to ignore you because you're telling me nothing. So what you need to do is give me something, this is the best stuff you can give me. So let's try and break something. Now there are two kinds of breaking things in code. There's breaking things as in something's actually not working and it's broken. And there's a break as in the program has stopped because you told it to stop. So let's do the first one first. I'm pretty sure I know how to break this, which is kind of funny. Oh god, there's so many. Okay, that was a mistake. Let's try that again. It's too many for me there. So let's just pick a small one, select everything. I'm allowed to. Okay, that didn't break. It's funny how hard it is to break things. I didn't think it would be so difficult. But it is. Okay. Oh no, there we go. Okay, good. So this is probably the most common one that you're going to come across. Argument out of range. Basically, I've got a box of things. Say there's 3 of them in there, but I'm asking for the 5th one. And there isn't a 5th one because there's only 3 in there. So the program goes argument out of range. In this case, it's because this zippy's thing here, there's 0 in there at the moment, and I'm asking for the 0th element, but there's nothing in there, so it breaks. Now, most of the time, you would just screenshot this, and that would be good, but you know what would be better is knowing these, like you can hover over this, and it tells you details about it. So that is useful to me. But hovering over it is kind of hard if you want to get multiple hovers, so you can just go down here. So you get the locals, autos, they're the 2 most useful ones. Locals here, okay, locals is anything within, in this case, this block. So, scope is hard. Okay, so this task creates, okay, let's just backtrack a bit. Threads. So a thread is what a program does when it's executing multiple things at the same time. So at the moment it's running the debugger over here in its own little thread. Here it's running the program in its own little thread. It's like the visual interface you see. And then there are 11 threads doing update. That needs to be fixed. There should only be 1 doing that. So obviously that's why this has crashed, because it's trying to do the same thing 11 times, but there's nothing there to do. So yeah, so that's threading. So now what I mean by scope, so if we go down here and you go locals, you've got nothing in it, because this is all that that thread can see. Everything outside it is invisible. It's not there, according to this thread. Autos has a bit more of a higher scope. You can see a little bit outside, or a little bit more relating to outside. So this total Texas is outside, but obviously it's it doesn't like that. Sometimes that happens. Now back to the actual useful stuff. So I said before that just screenshotting this isn't particularly useful. I need to know what this is, and I need to know what this is. Now, as you can see, if you remember from before, it said count equals 0, but now it says cannot evaluate, because there's 11 of them. So if we go and pick one, I don't know which one though. So if you get this case where there's 11 of them, you might need to how do you do that? You might need to search through them. So you just hover over that, eventually it'll show up, and then just scroll through until you get one. I actually think the last one is the one it uses, but it's not. Anyway, it's one of them in there. And what you would need to show me is zippies and which zippy, because they're the indices. That's the box with stuff in it, and that's where I'm looking, and I want to know both of them. Obviously, I also need this, and yeah, both of these windows would be nice. So something you can do is screenshot it twice, one with that, one that looks like that, and one that looks like that, and then go into Paint and cut this out and stick it over here, and then I can see everything I need to see. The other kind of break I was talking about, we'll go do that in a sec. So just look up here for a bit though. This you can restart. So right now, if I was to click stop, it'd just close the program here and go away. If you want to go back into the program, so you can go restart. You can try and go continue. It's probably not going to work. It'll actually do it 10 more times, because there's 10 more threads waiting to do the same failure. Okay, so what we're going to do is restart, and then we're going to go, once it's finished restarting, to the other kind of break where you tell the program where to stop. So if we go to, okay, we're already in update info. So you just click in this little brown grey space over here, and you create a breakpoint. So this doesn't mean the program is actually not working. It just means that it's going to stop here and wait for you. So if I ask you to do a breakpoint, this is what I mean. So then you just go to TPF Tools, load some random thing, and it's going to stop here. Now, the useful part about this is it tells you, this things in here, if you stop at a breakpoint, will never be inaccessible. So you know how it said before, can't evaluate because it's optimized or some rubbish. This way, that will never happen. And it's very useful to me. So it gives you the status of things. So at the moment, this function is being given selected ind, which is this. So you can just see outright what that value is. So say that index one that I was getting before, say I didn't know what that was. It kept saying cannot evaluate because it's optimized. I could just stop it before that break happens and have a look at what the index is, and then that fixes my problems, right? I can start looking at why I'm getting a bad index, or why it's crashing the box. What else might we need? Oh, so from here, so from your breakpoint, say this wasn't the line you were looking for. Say it was this one or this one, but you stopped here anyway. You could just make new breakpoints if you wanted to, just put breakpoints everywhere, but that's annoying. You can just step. So you get a step here, it'll just go to it'll go and do the next thing. This is useful for if you know you're around where things break, but you don't know exactly where, so you just put it at the top here, you break at the top, and then walk through the function. That's literally what this is doing. It's just walking through. This is exactly what the program does, just in super slow motion, like 2.5 million times slower than it's used to doing things. And then you get all these details which you can help diagnose problems. To finish up, your Visual Studio might look different to this because I've got the what do they call it? The super advanced version. I don't know. I get it free from uni because I have too much money. The free version, what do they call that? Express. That works fine. There are things you can't do, but if you're just doing this debugging stuff, you can do everything you need to. And this parallel stacks, which is handy, you get to through window debug, I think. So you just whack the debug up here when that wants to load, and then you go Windows, and you go parallel stacks. That might not be in Express. If it isn't, don't worry about it. I can do without. Okay, so hopefully that's helped someone out there out. And hopefully it shows what I'm actually looking for. So on the forums, I don't think I've actually said what I look for in the screenshots and stuff like that. So hopefully that's useful, and hopefully people actually watch these videos. So